Hi everyone. I guess this is season 6. It's been a while since my last post, and I decided I was gonna revamp the format a little bit. So I wanted everything to be a bit more free flow, to be a little bit more conversational. So I'm starting the 6th season with a walkthrough of something kind of special, a project that I had been working on for the better part of 2024 actually. Spent almost a year on it, and this is my GBWC submission. It's not a secret. I've posted videos about this for a very, very long time, and I never really got a chance to walk through everything. GBWC happened, and then commissions happened, and then life happened. I really didn't get a chance to talk about it. But now, I would like to set aside a little bit of time just to showcase and then talk about the thought process. So, this is the box I designed for it. This one's for Shizuoka Hobby Show, and I made a box for it because I thought that it had to be easy to transport. I needed something that, well, it goes back to GBWC 2023. See, in 2023, I had a lot of trouble transporting the master grade Gundam, and because last year 2024, it was going to be a perfect grade Zaku. It was going to be a lot bigger. I made it to be modular, so I could take it apart, and then bring it out in pieces in a little box like this. So the box is a lot smaller than even the one that I use for my master grade. Immediately upon looking at this, you'll see Lego parts, and the reason is because if you haven't seen the videos, this is a motorized gunpla. I think that's the reason I didn't place it. More on that later. But I built this PG and heavily modified the structure of it to be puppeted. I wouldn't call it animatronic. It's actually a piece where all the important joints were replaced with bearings, giving it a more smooth and a more mobile skeleton. And so, because of that, I was able to puppet it using Lego Technic pieces with a few modifications. So what does it actually look like? Obviously I didn't display it with this. It had a housing over it, but I'm gonna assemble it with this thing uncovered, so you know what's really going on. But more on that later. The real star of the show was the perfect grade Zaku, and you can see something a little bit different. I actually skeletonized the armor of the Zaku. A lot of the parts are still movable, are still posable. This one isn't. A lot of the parts are still posable, but all the armor has been skeletonized. The reason I said a lot of parts are posable is because I had locked out the articulation for some parts, but in others they are sort of hypermobile because either I had sanded them loose so that they can hang loose almost like a puppet. or I had replaced them with bearings. You can see some of these sections actually have ball bearings here. Now, let me unpack and show you what's in the box. So as you can see, everything's been separated into the forearms, legs, and the upper and lower torso. So here is the Zaku proper. The waist has been replaced with a loose ball bearing. The arms, the upper arms, have also been replaced with smooth, free spinning ball bearings. The head is fixed in place, or more or less. It will not move when I switch it on. And something that I developed over the past couple of projects is spring-loaded skirts. And the reason is I wanted the skirts to flex along with the upper thigh, but I also wanted them to return back into place. So that's what I did. You can see that most of the armor has been skeletonized. I added metallic mesh in the back here. I added pla plate with grooves here, and all this is brass rod going in and out of the armor. The thrusters have been left uncovered. I did a lacquer and candy coat on the thrusters, just red and blue. A little bit of heat discoloration at the top here. These are sort of like heat sink like parts, so I decided to do that. The top of the head can still be opened, even though you can already see what's inside. Sides of the head were cut away, and the reason I can't remove the head is because there are LEDs inside on the mono eye and on either side of it, red, blue, and pink. The chest can be opened, but there's nothing in there either. I had gutted it and ran wires through it. Not a lot, but it wouldn't leave enough space for the pilot figure or the cockpit. Now, what I do with this is I'm going to mount it onto that stand. So I'm going to make some room first. And in the back, I have a brass rod. These are hollow brass rods. These are not the brass rods the brass wiring that I use for these parts. This is a much thicker and hollow brass rod. No reason for it being hollow. It's just cheaper to buy the ones that are hollow and not the ones that are full. I'm quite sure you can make some argument, some physics argument that says, you know, it's actually more structurally sound. I'm sure that's one of the reasons, but I just got it because it's cheaper. So the interesting thing about Lego Technic is some of these parts correspond in diameter to the brass rod. So 3 millimeters into one of the holes here. I would slot that in here. And so now we have the beginning of the experimental Zaku. Now, as you can see, the legs are done in a very similar way. A lot of the parts are also still articulated. They can be opened, although you're not really opening much, but what I've done is I've skeletonized most of the armor, all of the armor in fact. you can still articulate a lot of this. Some of this is magnetized in place because upon removing some of the armor plates, the pegs that peg into the inner frame are no longer there. So instead, I moved the attachment and I added magnets instead. And the reason I added magnets is because sometimes you get a little bit of tension when it moves. Sometimes you get impact and interaction with the other parts. Obviously, a gunpla isn't designed to be constantly in motion. Sometimes things get misaligned. So the magnet actually prevents the parts from literally just falling off. A lot of it is the same principle with the skirts, where you can push it, you can fiddle with it, and it's not going to fall off. So that's something that I did here. So there's a peg here, and this is a polystyrene rod. Ideally I would have used metal rods, but I had a lot of trouble getting metal rods in the right diameter. But what I did was I got these polystyrene rods, and they're going to attach to ball bearings on the frame itself, not on the torso. You'll see that there were two sets of ball bearings just underneath where the skirt slots in. So these go in there. And as you can see, they simply friction fit. Now the other leg does the same thing. The arms are done in a very similar way. The fingers aren't really glued in place. I can still pose it. Can still have a nice, very natural looking hand pose. And this peg goes here. So these are loose. The flex on the chest and shoulders are not loose, they're pretty firm. Now, let's look at this. You'll see a ton of wires here. They're fake, they're purely aesthetic. All the wiring actually just runs here. I'm gonna slot this just to keep it from getting in the way. I'll put that aside for now. Don't think I need it anyway. So these run through here, and then I cover it up. Like so, with more aesthetic pieces. Now this is magnetized. I've got a nice strong magnet here. I've got a strong magnet in there, and it will seat into place exactly where I want it. I can't afford to have it shift back and forth because these things will run back and forth a lot. So with that in place, you'll have noticed that the Zaku doesn't have the piping on the legs, and the reason is because I replaced the piping with these. These are silicone rubber bands actually, which I cut. These are the rubber bands that I use as hair ties. I use these and I peg them in here. Generally, I peg them anywhere I want. I never really remember where they go, but because there's so many pegs available, just put them where I like. And then on the other end, here's the fun part. They're all magnetized. So, right? So they all attach to different points on the body where I had attached magnets as well, and I'll do the same on the other side. There we are. Now, how, pray tell, are we going to start moving these around? Aluminum rods. I could have chosen brass, but like I said, brass was expensive. So I got these aluminum ones, and I bent some of them into hooks. Some of them are straight, some of them have springs on the end for various reasons. At the base of each foot, there's a bearing that these go into. I have pegs that go on the end. Remove the peg, thread it through that bearing. And attach the other end to the main assembly. Peg everything back in. Same goes on the other end. And then I seat this in these rails that I had on the bottom. These are brass, and they allow the aluminum rod to slide back and forth like like the drive shafts, the drive on a locomotive. You'll see later. Now, in the back of the arm, there's a little peg that I made out of aluminum rod. They slot into these, and these are on a spring, so they can puppeteer it in a sort of a more organic looking, loosely, kind of loosey-goosey fashion. Again, it's attached to the main assembly. So there we are. The whole assembly has been put together. The only thing lacking now is power. So that's kind of interesting too, because I built a control box. Like that. So this control box I built sort of as a battery pack. So inside here, underneath the controls, I have a ton of batteries and wiring, right? Everything attaches to these up here. There's a switch here as well. And everything goes to this master switch, which is attached to a key. So, funny story. After I packed this up after GBWC, I lost the key. However, this is a very easy problem to fix. So we've got part separator. It's the version 2 of the part separator, and it's got a little slot where you can slot the cover so you don't lose the cover. Now, the part separator just so happens to be able to you know what, I might be wrong. I might have figured out a different way to do this. Just give me a minute. It was a paint stirrer. Anyway, paint stirrer goes in. Give it a nice good twist. The lights come on. So the little pink light along the bottom that comes on when you turn it on. All these on the other end go into the respective connectors. I color coded them so I wouldn't forget. But generally, you just connect whatever's relevant. Okay, so the moment of truth. I'm going to lower the camera slightly. Zoom out slightly. Clear my mess. Turning off those two switches on the lights. What can I do to make it easier? Come, let me show you. So, what I have now is indicator lights across the whole thing. So we get some lights that come on. And also, right there, in the head, you've got your mono eye and a couple of lights on the left and right. Third switch is a backup, not currently in use, but I always thought it would be important to have an extra wire just in case things fail. I can run it onto my backup switch on the third one. Now, the fun one is this one. It's a covered switch, which I can then turn on, and if all goes well and nothing gets in the way, sometimes a little bit of adjustment is needed, so disclaimer. But if nothing's in the way, it will start working. Alright, have I done something wrong? Well, it's entirely possible that my battery is too weak. So let's see. It could be that my battery pack is no longer strong enough because this was running for a very long time. So give me a minute, I'm going to replace the batteries. Just found a use for this in the end. Now let's try that again. Well, I guess shit happens, doesn't it? Wrong wire. we go. Zaku takes a walk. So I was really hoping that this would make a splash at GBWC, but it kind of went by without anyone really noticing, and even the judges didn't really care about it. And I think it was downplayed because there were so many non-regulation parts in it. Even though I created a housing to house everything. A little bit of adjustment is needed, but more or less, it's more or less, if I can turn it on again. So I had the back sort of concealed with the housing, and then I just let it run on the Judgment Day. I was kind of happy with it. Bit nuts, but you know, I really wanted to do something that broke the mold and something that kind of pushed the envelope of what I had already done the previous year, which was the RX-78. And I thought this was a fun little project to undertake. And really, this is a lot more suitable to bring to Shizuoka Hobby Show than GBWC, considering all the non-regulation parts and kind of a more radical idea. Taking it to Shizuoka would have been the main goal. So this will definitely go there. We'll definitely see this. You can see how the skirts spring back into place after they've been pushed apart by the legs. You can see how all this kind of adds a lot of movement to the entire operation. And so I was pretty happy. I'm going to turn this down now so that we don't get so much noise. It's a little bit more mellow. But yes, that's sort of what I've been working on for about a year. Not much beyond that. Well, that's a lie. A lot more interesting things have come and gone off this desk. But I'll probably save that for future projects, future episodes. Season 6, a little bit more chill, a little bit more rambling. But I want to see how this goes. I wanted to take a more relaxed approach to whatever I post online. I'm not great with tutorials, but I'm really great with just having a chat, giving little tips here and there, sharing what I've done in the previous year so that hopefully someone's going to try this and do an even better job than I, while I move on to trying something new next year, or this year, 2025. So that's what I've been up to. Pretty happy with this, actually. Kind of glad how it turned out. And if you want to see this in person, if you happen to be in Japan or happen to frequent Shizuoka Hobby Show, drop by, say hi. You can't miss me. It'll be pretty obvious. That's about it. I'll leave you with a little bit of just clean up. I'll keep that in the footage and you can see me take this apart as well. Now obviously I'm going to get a new key. I've already ordered a new key for this, so it's not going to, it's actually going to have a key.